Hello neighbors, it's Brad here from eTrailer, and today we are taking a look at installing the MORryde RV Cargo Slide on a 2023 Chevy Express van. Now this configuration is going to be 72-inch by 29, and it's going to be a one-way slide with 60% extension. So what does that mean? Well, there's a lot of things. We figured out the dimensions, so that's going to be our first ones. But one-way slide, well, as the name implies, this slides out one way, but they also offer a two-way slide. So for instance, if you had an RV with a basement that opens up on both sides, you can slide it out one way or slide it the other way. The same would work if you had a van with dual sliding doors. If you ran it that wide way, you could use either side. This is the one-way configuration, which is going to be great for our van, and 60% extension means that 60% of the tray can extend from its base. So that means you have ample room to be able to gather any of the stuff that you might store in tight compartments, or in our neighbor's instance, they're going to be putting their generator on here, and when they're ready to use it, they can slide it out and get that running, keep the fumes out and not in the van. Along with that, they could load up their tools and have easy accessibility, even use this as a workspace to assemble whatever they may be working on. So there's a lot of different applications, really getting the proper size and utilizing that space as best as possible comes down to your application. But with all that being said, all of the trays, no matter what configuration, are extremely nice. I got the actually ability to go to MORryde and see these made, and I have nothing but great things to say about all of their products. Everything quality-wise is fantastic. It's made in the USA, and if that stamp of MORryde's on there, I promise you the quality follows with that every time. You can take a look at reviews from other neighbors like you that have similar products, see what they have to say, and I can guarantee you it's going to be very similar to what I just said, because the product kind of speaks for itself. Everything about it, touch points are really, really nice. It's well thought out. They have carpet in this inside, which might just seem like, why do I need that? But if you have things that are moving around, this carpet's going to give it just enough traction to kind of hold that in place. So beyond that, you have great bearings. You have a ton of different hardware to get this mounted up, a nice powder coat finish that's really going to hold up long term and look really nice. As far as installation goes, it's pretty easy to do. You have a ton of different hardware that they give you, and that's going to be bolts or screws, so it really comes down to what kind of flooring you're putting it on. And in our case, we have this decking on here that is plywood. Eventually goes into metal, so on a few spots I was able to use the screws, and on a few spots I was able to use bolts, and a combination of all of them means that it's going to be nice and robust. And as far as robust goes, while this is extended, you wouldn't expect to be able to put a ton of weight on this outside edge. But as you can see, I'm putting all of my 200 pounds on here, and it doesn't even flex it. And I'm not even concerned because the total capacity is 800 pounds for this. So there's not a whole lot of things that come to mind that you would, not be able to load up on here and not have it handle it with grace. There's also a height adjustment kit. And in our application, that doesn't really come into play here too much because there's no lip. But on many storage compartments on your RV, there will be a lip where the door is, and you want to make sure that it's going to be able to clear that. So if you're running into that, or if you had a lip here that you needed to clear, you could get the height adjustment kit. Beyond that, it's pretty simple installation. You're really just going to be figuring out where it needs to go and then drilling in either the screws or the bolts. But with that being said, you can't just send those in and not really think about what's underneath. And in fact, there's a fuel tank that runs pretty well a good length of this that I had to really pay attention to. But having that combination of hardware still allows you to really get it nice and secure. But if I could say anything, I would say just double check underneath where you're drilling. And that doesn't matter if it's on an express van or an RV. You don't want to damage something in the process of installing something that you're going to enjoy. With that being said, let's take a look at that installation so you can get your RV Cargo Slide installed. Now, to begin your installation, the main thing you're going to want to do, and probably going to take the longest, is really figure out exactly where you want this. That way when you mount it up, you're not going to have any issues with it making contact with anything. You're going to get full usability of it. And also checking underneath to see roughly where the screws are going to go in to make sure you're not going to hit anything vital. On our Express van today, it's a little less important. Sometimes on RVs you have plumbing that runs right under it or whatever it may be that we don't want to make contact with. On ours today, it's a pretty straight shot on, underneath, but really play around with it, make sure that you have all your clearances. So I'm going to close our door, make sure that I have it butted up exactly to get the most amount of space possible, and also just really try to put yourself in the position of, if I'm going to be using this, is this exactly where I want it? So on ours today, we have a shelf that's on our driver's side, but eventually they may upfit this with another shelf on the other side. So we're going to be putting this dead center, and they're going to be using this for their generator to put on the tray, and that way when it's in use they can roll that out, have the fumes exhaust out, but also you'll be able to reach all the tools that you may store on this at the job site. You can even use it as a nice working area. So for our instance today, we are going to be centering this up, and so the first thing I'm going to do is get this in place, measure everything out, and then just with some painter's tape start marking out the corners, because at some point we are going to want to remove our tray to get it mounted, and a little bit of shifting can occur during that process. So the tape's just going to be a nice reference mark to make sure that we're getting it exactly where we want. Now I've marked out my spots. I'm really happy with the spot, and now you may have banding on yours from the factory. Ours was already removed, so if that's the case, you can cut that banding now and grab an extra set of hands, because we're going to get our tray off of the rails. That way we have access to all the mounting points. So the way to do that, we'll pull our handle up, and as I slide it back, there's going to be a stop that we want to lift this over. So as you start to raise this, you kind of pull back on this area, and with your extra set of hands, we'll get this lifted up and out. So even just moving that out, it did slide a little bit, but that's why I put the tape there. And I know that I'm using this metal trim as my edge here. So all I have to do is push this back, make sure that all the tape aligns. And the first thing we're going to want to do is get one screw in each of the corners. So one of them is kind of tucked here right by our bearing. You could remove that bearing. You can also just kind of go in at an angle, but we're going to be doing that on all four corners, and included is going to be kind of a mixed bag of different hardware, and that's because depending on the floor that you have, whether it's metal, wood, whatever it may be, they give you a lot of different options to be able to get this mounted up. So for our four corners, I'm going to be looking to get, I have metal here, and then this decking here that we have is it's plywood with a coating on it, so a nice wood screw is probably going to be a good option for that. But the main reason we want to anchor this down, obviously, so it doesn't shift, but as we extend it out, a lot of that weight can cause it to want to tilt. So we really want this buckled down so you can safely extend this out and still have all of that weight on there. So I'll get my hardware and I'll start mounting it. And it might be worthwhile doing a pilot hole just to make sure that it's going to be easy for that hardware to go in without walking, but also it's a good chance to see if we are going to hit anything. So as I drill down, I can check underneath, make sure that I'm not going to hit anything vital. But I kind of gave it a quick glance. Everything looks pretty good. Now, being very careful as to not hitting anything is going to come down to getting that pilot hole drilled and put a light up top, and so you can see through. So when you're drilling, obviously be careful because the gas tank runs the entire length here, and so I was concerned that this long screw could very potentially puncture the gas tank. Well, I checked where my pilot hole was, and there's actually a dip where the banding goes that this is going to sit perfectly, not make contact. But again, this could be an easy mistake to make, and you don't want to have to repair a gas tank or anything underneath your vehicle while just trying to get this installed. So that's why you have a large variety of hardware. The corners you really want to get as strong as possible, and there's going to be additional hardware that we put in that holds it, but it's really important to double check that we do have a nice clean spot to do this. So I'm happy with mine. There's a nice in a gap there, but a little few inches one way or the other could have been a bad problem. So I'm glad that I checked before just sending this down. With that being said, I'm going to get this one finished drilling into place, and then I'm going to get this corner mounted up as well. Now, with those four corners mounted up, something that you might want to do is get some washers. The head of the bolts of the screw is pretty large, so on these corners, especially the one by the bearing, I think we'll be okay. I am going to put them on the back side. But you might put the tray in, make sure that it's nice and squared up, because if you do have it shifted a little bit, it could cause that to bind up and just not be a smooth actuation. So double check that, and once you're happy with it, what you can do is mount up at least 4 other spots along the rail just for securement. So again, you have a combination of screws, bolts, so whatever works best for you. You'll see that there's a lot of different holes here that will work with those different hardware, so really it is fairly universal. So whatever works best for your application and what gives you the sense of security that it's not going to move on you. So I'll get mine mounted up, and then once we have our tray in, that's really going to do it. So let's get this all mounted up. Now, knowing that I have the gas tank along here, what I really want to do is probably focus on getting this side really heavy duty. The main thing is getting this back end real secure, because as that weight can go fully out, that's when it's going to start to want to tip. So I'm going to be using some of the bolts that are included, and we also have some nylon lock nuts, so that way we don't have to worry about it getting loose over time. And I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to obviously get this in, and you'll probably have to have someone down below or get a wrench to stick on there so you can tighten it all down, or even using a wrench up top. But I mean, the hardware is all super heavy duty, and with this passed all the way through, I would really not think that you'd have any issues. But again, if you use small screws like this and you put a lot of weight, this, like I mentioned earlier, this is just plywood. So if you max out the weight on this, we don't want that ripping up. So whatever combination works best for your application, again, you want to make sure that you have peace of mind that it's going to be able to hold that weight. So I got mine all mounted up, and I did kind of a combination of a few different hardware that they gave us, but I feel pretty confident. And the way that I did it, if you have the exact van and you're putting it in the exact spot, you could follow this and you should be fine. But again, little variances, you want to make sure you're not causing damage to anything below. So don't just pray and drill it down, make sure that you're doing it right. So we already had our corners mounted up. On our next ones, I did end up using a long screw to drill this in. It doesn't quite reach the metal, so because we have this decking here, could be different if you have that or not. But again, just to kind of support it on the floor. And when I got to this, I drilled it out and ran those long bolts down with our washer and nylon lock nut. And this one, because of this brace, I wasn't able to use the washer. I didn't feel super comfortable, so I don't foresee having any issues with no washer here, but I did put one here. And then I went back to this section here. So again, you have a combination of a bunch of different holes, but I picked these, and mostly because underneath I really double, triple checked to make sure that we're going to be in a good spot. And then as I went back, I ran shorter screws in here just again for the floor, and then I also put some extra there just because I had the hardware. You really can't overdo it per se. And really structurally, some of the bolts or longer screws, try to put that on the side that is really going to be supporting that weight as it's fully extended. Down towards where the latch is, it's obviously still important, but not as much as this, because if you were to have all that weight, it's going to want to pull this up. So I really tried to get this as tight as possible and as structurally sound as possible. So I'll raise this up and you can see what that looks like underneath. So drilling those pilot holes really becomes vital because you can see exactly where you're going to be looking just by finding that hole. So our first bolt goes right here, right in front of the shock mount. So you can see that's why it's important. If I was just a little bit further, this would have ran into our shock mount and might have caused issues there. And then this one further back, I ended up actually going all the way through the heat shield and snugging that down. Now, the bolt that's on the driver's side, a little bit farther forward, I mentioned that gas tank, and this works out pretty well here. But again, as I mentioned previous, the long screw that I use for the corner, it is literally in the pocket where this gas tank goes down. I don't think you're going to be able to see that just because you're going to have to be tucked up, but really, really close. And so again, double check, put those pilot holes down, take a flashlight up top, look underneath. And that's if you are using the long hardware. I really want this to be as robust as possible. Those shorter screws probably are going to do a fine job, and I wouldn't doubt that it would hold it, but I just wanted to be extra sure that it can handle all the weight necessary. Once you're happy with all of your hardware in place, the next thing you're going to want to do is grab your tray, and you can start guiding it in, putting the bearings into the slot. You'll get to a stop, and that's there for a reason. You lift that up, and that should drop in and then allow you to get it all in place. And then once that's snapped in, you get to load up your stuff and test to make sure that you're happy with it. And that was a look and installation of the MORryde RV Cargo Slide on a 2023 Chevy Express van. Now hopefully this video helped give you an idea of what kind of applications you can do and really how you can make your van work out as best as possible for accessing anything you may have. Now if you end up going with this exact size, or if you're using this for a work van, or if you're using this for camping, whatever it may be, let us know. If you're into van life and this is going underneath your bed, this would be a great option for storage. Either way, I want to see pictures of how you're using your RV Cargo Slide. So throughout the process of installation and when you're on those adventures or doing work, feel free to send those comments. And if there's anything that I could have maybe elaborated on or done different in the video, please also leave those comments as well. That helps us make our videos as best as possible for neighbors like you that are looking at products similar to this. That way they can get the best video possible and get it all installed. My name's Brad. Thank you for joining me for a look and installation of our MORryde RV Cargo Slide.